Okay, so they declared to be forbidden what I had made halal for them, and they commanded them to commit shirk with me, to associate others with me in my divinity, to commit shirk with me of that for which no authority had been sent down. Another transmission says, all the wealth I have given a servant is lawful. Another transmission ends with the additional words, truly God has revealed to me that you should be humble toward one another, so that none of you is conceited over another, and so that none of you transgresses against another. Okay, so Imam Ahmad has 5 transmissions of the hadith. His first, which is sahih, it says, but then the satanic demons came to them and misguided them. أضلتهم, from their religion. أضلتهم عن. Imam al-Nasa'i has 2 transmissions. They mention the satanic demons diverting the people from God's religion, forbidding them from partaking of the halal, and commanding them to do shirk. But then the transmission adds, وَأَمَرَتْهُمْ أَنْ يُغَيِّرُوا خَلْقِي. So this is why it's really good. Hadith are so beautiful. And may you, if you don't already love the study of hadith, may God put that love in your heart. Hadith are supreme. And the great thing in hadith is taking the turuq and putting them together. Most hadith have turuq. They have different channels of transmission, and when you put those together, you will get a picture that is so clear that I don't believe you could doubt that this is authentic historical reporting. If we were to take 5 of you tonight who are here in this class and then get you aside and say, tell me about such and such and such and such that happened in the class. All of you would say something very similar, right? Because you all witnessed it. All of you would also say something a little bit different, because you remember something the other one didn't remember. That's why these turuq are the greatest witness that I can think of for the authenticity of hadith transmission. And this is a very important topic. Establishing the authenticity of the transmission of hadith. There are great works that have been done on this in English, in German, in Arabic, and it's a really important matter. I was once speaking with Professor Danner at the University of Chicago, who's a pretty good Orientalist, and he doesn't seem to me to be malicious. And this was in 2000, and I was mentioning to him the turuq of hadith, and he studies this also. I said, so what do you make of that? He said, I make of that this is authentic. He said, what else could I say? These things cannot be fabricated like that. And again, we are being attacked day and night in every way that you can imagine and can't imagine. And as people try to destroy this religion, hadith is one of the main things. And you probably know they work on this very well. And most of what they say is pure garbage. Pure garbage. I wrote a book called Malik in Medina, Islamic Legal Reasoning in the Formative Period. We can get it for you in PDF. If you can't afford to buy it, it is unfortunately quite expensive. And it's about the rise of Islamic legal theory. It focuses on Imam Malik and the amal, the practice of the people of Medina, but it is about comparative usul. So it's about Abu Hanifa, it's about Imam al-Shafi'i, it's about Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Layth ibn Sa'ad, al-Awza'i. Okay, it's comparative. But one of the main points of that book, other than showing how these legal schools developed and what they are and why they are there, is to establish the authenticity of hadith and to overturn some of the big mistakes that Orientalists have taught. Okay, so Nasa'i then says, and then I commanded them also to alter my creation, to change my creation. And again, the creation can be changed. And the word here is what? يُغَيِّرُ. Not يُبَدِّلُ. يُغَيِّرُ. There are also other transmissions in Abu Dawood, Ibn Majah, Ibn Hibban, and others. Tabarani has 5 transmissions. All of this is in the book. Forgive me if it's too academic to go through this. The 5th of them says, shall I not speak to you about what God, glorified and majestic be He, has spoken to me about in the book? That's interesting. And the book can be the revelation also, not necessarily just the Quran. That God, glorified and majestic be He, created Adam and his children. See, that's a beautiful fa'idah. That's a beautiful addition. That God created Adam and his children as Hanifs and Muslims. Isn't that nice? Hanifs and Muslims. He gave them the wealth they were given, halal, without any haram in it. But they worship the taghuts, meaning the demonic spirits that go to the furthest extremes of evil. And the taghuts command, and He commanded me, God, that I come to them and make clear to them what they were fashioned as being. الَّذِي جَبَلَهُمْ عَلَيْهِ. So again, you see how they add things on? I think that's really beautiful. I hope you do too. I hope you do too. And I hope you're not getting sleepy. Okay. Anyway, if it was a warm summer night, we'd all be drowsing off. Now you're like, okay, I'm awake, I'm freezing. Okay? So I created them all as Hanifs. Every one of them.
It's been an hour.
It's been an hour. No. No. Okay, speed it up. Speed it up. That is, they and their limbs, were created pure of sin and any acts of disobedience. There's no original sin. There is no original sin. Do Christians believe in original sin? That's a very impolite question. You're going like this. Okay, so he got it right. In fact, there's only one group of Christians who believe in original sin, and those are the Western Christians. They're not the Coptic Christians. And they're not the other Jacobite Christians, which are like the Copts, like the Armenian Christians. And they're not the Greek Orthodox Christians either. The only Christians who believe in original sin are the Western Christians, which are the Catholics and the Protestants. And where did they get that from? They got it from St. Augustine, who was a very important figure in Western Christianity. But he puts in original sin, and he makes it doctrine of the church. And he does that to buttress the notion of Christ as the only means of salvation you've got, the only bus home. There's no other bus home. You've only got this. And you may not want to hear this. I'm going to tell it to you anyway. Are there any Celts here? I'm part Celt. I'm the only one. No Celtish blood here. Hey, good for you. Good for you. Okay, but there was a monk, a Celtic monk named Pelagius, who lived in those days in what is today England. But England was Celtish in those days. It was Britain. And you had a lot of monks there. And you have Irish Christianity there also, which is very different. Insular Christianity. But Pelagius is the one who will lead the battle against Augustine. That, what are you doing? What are you doing? Augustine lived in Tunisia, by the way. But that was part of the West. And Pelagius lives in Britain. And he rebelled against this teaching. But this is not what our teaching is. And he was a monk. And what is the point of my being a monk? If there's not something good in me, that I can discipline and get good out of. So this is an interesting thing. And Pelagius was defeated and Augustine won. But in any case, original sin is not an original Christian doctrine. And it's not a Jewish doctrine either. But we believe that all human beings are born free of sin. And their limbs are free of any act of disobedience. And Christians believe that you're born tainted with what they call the sin of Adam. That's original sin. Everyone, even Abraham. It's a strange teaching, isn't it? Yes. And it leads to strange contradictions because they believe that Christ descended into hell to save Abraham, to bring Abraham out of hell. He was in hell and the other prophets because of their original sin. I mean, come on. That's kind of hard for me to swallow. It's like, maybe you're pushing things too far. Others say he created them as Hanifs and believers by virtue of the fact that he took from them the covenant also. And we'll talk about the covenant, the mithaq. And this covenant is, of course, Alastu bi rabbikum. Am I not your Lord? They said, yes, indeed, we bear witness. My translation, I put yay, but I'm not going to say that. I'm embarrassed. Okay, now the next point we want to go to is, if all children are created Hanif and Muslims, and if that is the covenant, and it is part of that, we'll talk about that in the days ahead, what happens to a child when that child dies? If that child has Hindu parents, or idolatrous parents, or Buddhist parents, or whatever. And this is very important. And here, Al-Qurtubi says, Imam Al-Qurtubi, in conjunction with, I created my servants as Hanifs, all of them. He says, thus, if they die before attaining maturity, they will be in the garden, whether they are the children of Muslims or disbelievers. And this is the strong position. Muslims didn't agree on this completely, but this is the strong position. This hadith indicates, and this, by the way, I'm sorry, in your book is on page 249. And then also on page 250. 250. This hadith indicates that all children who die before maturity will be in the garden in what is called the Hadana of Ibrahim. In hadith it's called the Hadana of Ibrahim, the nursery of Abraham. Again, many of our great scholars say that this is the correct position. And this is the position of the muhaqqiqun, of the great scholars, who really get the details right. These children are with Abraham because they died while still having the first covenant, the covenant of the fitra of the Hanifiyya. This makes them among the most worthy of people to be with Abraham. Inna awla an-nasi bi Ibrahima lalladhina taba'u. Isn't that true? That truly the people most worthy of Abraham are those who followed him. So these children are with Abraham. That means they're the most worthy, doesn't it? And in the hadith, and this prophet and those who believe. But it means these children also belong there. This indicates the immense greatness and goodness of the fitrah, and the mercy of God, and the fairness of God, and the justice of God, in the way He created us human beings. You'll see also, we're going to look at the hadith, that the children in the garden are very beautiful, even though they might not have been in this world. It might have been a deformed child, but in the garden they will be very beautiful. And that indicates the perfection of their fitras, that indicates the perfection of their fitras. So here we want to look at a hadith by Imam al-Bukhari, transmitted by Imam al-Bukhari. And this is pages 340 to, I might have something wrong. I've got it. Yeah, so this is actually 340 to 351. And it should have been, when I said 200, it should have been 3. Okay, so let's look at that. 340. Okay, so this is about, this is in Bukhari. كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مما يكثر أن يقول لأصحابه كان يقول هل رأى أحد منكم من رؤيا. Okay, then he would ask them if you've seen beautiful dreams, and they would tell. In any case, in this long hadith, the Prophet tells of what he saw. And this is a night journey. It says, فَانْطَلَقْنَا فَأَتَيْنَا عَلَى رَوْضَةٍ مُعْتِمَةٍ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ لَوْنٍ الرَّبِيعِ. Isn't this beautiful Arabic? Really, I mean, what a blessing. The Arabic of the Quran and the Hadith is just beyond words. فَأَتَيْنَا عَلَى رَوْضَةٍ مُعْتِمَةٍ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ لَوْنٍ الرَّبِيعِ وَإِذَا بَيْنَ ظهري الروضة رجل طويل لا أكاد أرى رأسه طولا في السماء وإذا حول الرجل من أكثر ولدان رأيتهم قط. قال قلت لهما, that is to the two angels, ما هذا ما هؤلاء قالا لي انطلق فانطلقنا. In any case, we're running out of time, so I'm going to just go to the translation. So Bukhari has 3 transmissions, and there are others as well, many others. He transmits in the first and the longest that the Prophet said one morning, truly, 2 angelic visitors came to me last night, and they awoke me, and they said to me, let us go, and we went with them. Then he says, after a number of different visions, it's a long hadith, he sees many things, and it's not made clear what they are until the end. So he says then, this is what we just read, then we set forth again, and we came to a beautiful green garden. This is Rawda Mu'tima. It's a beautiful green garden in which there was every beautiful spring color. In kulli lawn al-rabi'a, like the colors of the beautiful flowers of springtime. And there in the middle of the garden was a tall man whose head could hardly be seen because it was so high in the sky. And around the man there were the most numerous children that I have ever seen. I asked them, the angelic visitors, what is this man? And what are those children? But the visitors said, let's go. And so we went. Now in the end of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ asks the angels again about what happened. I said to them, truly I have seen tonight something amazing. So what is it that I have seen? Look at the treasures you were given. Aren't these treasures? Aren't these treasures? We have to live our deen. We have to teach our deen. Make children's books and things like that. Then they explained all that the Prophet had seen. And when they came to the story of the tall man, this is what they said. As for the tall man in the garden, it is Abraham, peace be upon him. And as for the children around him, they are every child born that died on the fitra. Then some of the Muslims said, Messenger of God, even the children of the mushriks, of the idolaters? The Messenger of God replied, even the children of the idolaters. Bukhari has another transmission, mentions again the two men who are two angels. And in this one it says that they took him to Al-Ard al-Muqaddasa, and to Jerusalem, the Holy Land. After the other accounts of vision in this hadith, like in the one before, we set forth until we came to a green garden, which is here Rawda Khadra, in which there was a huge tree, Shajaratun Azima. At the base of the tree, there was a sheikh and children, Sibyan. When the angels tell him, then the angels will tell him that the sheikh at the base of the tree, this is again at the end, was Abraham, and around him were the children of the people, Awlad al-Nas. Then the angel said, I am Gabriel and this is Michael. That's so good. You get these additions, you know. Now, Imam Ahmad also has transmissions of this hadith. Let's look at them. We set forth until we came to Rawda Mu'shiba. Mu'shiba means a grassy garden, green and grassy, in which were all the blossoms of spring. فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ نَوَرِ الرَّبِيعِ. The Prophet mentions that in the middle of the garden was a tall man standing, رَجُلٌ قَائِمٌ طَوِيلٌ, whose head could hardly be seen because it was so tall in the sky, so high in the sky. And around him were the most children that I have ever seen, and the most beautiful. Okay, these are beautiful benefits. At the end, he mentions that the children were of every mawlud, every child born that died on the fitrah. Again, some of the Muslims asked, even the children of the mushriks, and the Prophet responded, as in Bukhari, even the children of the mushriks. This hadith is in An-Nasa'i, At-Tirmidhi, Ibn Hibban, At-Tabarani. At-Tabarani reports that the man had white hair and a white beard. He was Abraham Khalilullah, it says that. And the children were Wildan al-Muslimin wa kullu mawludin yuladu ala al-fitra. They are Muslim children and the children of everyone born on the fitrah, which is all human beings. So this is beautiful, isn't it? And these are nusus. These are authentic texts which should establish our position. Now, one of the things that is pointed out in conjunction with the hadith of the Hadana of Abraham, peace be upon him. How are we doing for time? 9 minutes. 9 minutes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're going to try. We're going to really try. I promise. I have to keep my promise. But this is also like Surah At-Takwir. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. Right? Why is it like Surah At-Takwir? وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. Right? And when the souls are coupled, and when the female infant buried alive is asked, for what sin was she killed? So the female child was the daughter of idolaters, wasn't she? And obviously she doesn't share a bad destiny, because she's not going to be in the fire. That's all what we understand from this. Also, the commentators point out that this hadith is also complemented, by Allah's statement in Surah Al-Isra 17:15, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. That, we would never punish people until we sent a messenger. So the messenger didn't come to these children. And never do we punish until we have sent a messenger. So small children who do not have taklif are like people to whom a messenger never came. Also, one of the things that we just will note is that we learn from these hadith and others this is according to Ibn Hajar and other great scholars, that these are the words of Ibn Hajar, among the additional indications of this hadith, this incredible hadith, is that it shows that Isra happened many times. Not just once. And it happened awake and asleep and in different manners. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now we want to take another hadith in 9 minutes. Okay, so this is on pages 266 to 307. This is a Sahih hadith, and it is mashhur, very well known. Ibn Abdul Barr says of this hadith has been transmitted from the Prophet from different aspects, wujuh, all of which are sahih and well established, thabita. And this is the hadith, I'll give you first Imam Malik's transmission. Kullu mawludin yuladu al-fitra. All of you know this hadith, don't you? Every child born is born on the fitra. Then its parents make it a Jew or a Christian. Just as camels give birth to animals that are complete. Bahima Jama'ah. Bahima Jama'ah means it's intact. Doesn't have a cut ear, for example, or a cut tail. Do you sense, hal tuhissu, among them any that are mutilated? Jada'a. A beautiful metaphor, isn't it? So this indicates the fact that again, all of us are created with a fitrah, and that fitrah is complete. There's nothing deficient about it at all. Bukhari and Muslim, they have the same words as Imam Malik. Usually when Imam Malik transmits a hadith, you will find it in Bukhari and Muslim. Imam Malik is before them. He's generations before them. But Bukhari and Muslim add some things. For example, they have مَا مِن مَوْلُودٍ إِلَّا يُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ. Imam Malik, his transmission is كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ. See, but this is different. مَا مِن مَوْلُودٍ إِلَّا. So there is no child born, but that it is born on the fitrah. So that's more specific, isn't it? Muslim has also, whoever is born on this fitrah. Man yuladu ala hadhihi al-fitrah. Excuse me. Muslim also has every human being is given birth by his mother on the fitrah. Kullu insanin taliduhu ummuhu ala al-fitrah. Talk too much. Muslim also has, there is not a child born, but on this millah, on this dispensation. But on the millah, he is on the millah until his tongue expresses clearly what he believes. Until his tongue expresses about him what he believes. Muslim has a very special nadir or nawadir, and you'd have to be interested in Semitic linguistics to get this, and I don't think we can do that in 2 minutes. But Muslim, he has ma min mawludin illa yulida, not yulada, not yuladu, illa yulida ala al-fitra. Okay, now that is incredible. If you know about Semitic linguistics, this is Northern Semitic. And probably this is a Northern Arabic dialect. So here it's wulida, but the waw becomes a ya, and that's what happens in Syriac and Aramaic and Canaanite and Phoenician and Hebrew and other languages. So for me, that's cool. For you, it's like, would you please stay on topic? Okay. How are we doing for time? 2 minutes. Yay. So this hadith is also in Ahmad, and he states that the Prophet. Okay, yeah. So the fitrah in these hadith. Yeah, there's another reading which is 308 to 339. I'm not going to go into that right now. It's kullu nasama, yani tuladu ala al-fitra, but we don't have time for that, and I'm not going to come back to it tomorrow. Okay, but in your book, the book, 308 to 339, and you can look at that at your leisure. So the fitrah in this hadith is, of course, the human fitrah. We talked about that in the very beginning. Allamu lil-ahad. Okay, and so it refers to the fitrah, fitratullahi allati fatara an-nasa alayha. It is also said that it refers to the first covenant. And this is all valid. And when we acknowledged, all of us, God's lordship, it is clear beyond doubt from the many channels of these hadith, there are very many. First of all, that the Prophet said this many times. That's why, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you get these different variations. He didn't just say it once. He said it many times. But it also is very clear that this fitrah is the same in all human beings. No matter who they are, where they are, or what they are. And again, many commentators say that it includes the jinn. We'll come back to that at other times. Okay, well, in any case, good. Good, so we're finished. Not really, but what you missed, you missed. And inshallah, so this Every Child is Born in the Fitrah was pages 266 to 307. 266 to 307. So let's talk, right? So, what questions do you have? Oh my goodness. And somebody can help me here? Let's go through these, and tomorrow we can have Hisham do it. Maybe. Do you want to take them, Sidi Hisham? Thank you so much. There you go. Thank you. And then you can stand right there or sit. You don't have to go back to your chair. So, in this world we are all living. In this world we are living in, where the media and everything around us is trying to deviate us from our fitrah, to the extent that right seems wrong and wrong is more common, and seems right. How can we protect our children's fitrah? It's very, very good question. So, how do we answer that question? There's a principle that I'd like to emphasize, and that I believe in very strongly. Never make a molehill into a mountain. You all know what molehills are, right? They're about this big. You know the moles they dig in the ground, they make little molehills. Don't make a molehill into a mountain. Okay? That's easy, isn't it? But make every mountain into a molehill. Make every mountain into a molehill. What do we mean by that? What we mean by that is when we look around us in the world today, we see immense problems, such as the one that I believe our sister, I think this is a woman who wrote this from the handwriting. I believe that what she's talked about here is a huge problem, right? The influences of the media, of technology, of YouTube, of video games, of so many other things. So the first thing is that we do not want to think that this problem is insoluble. And we don't want to make it bigger than it is. In fact, we want to make it, this is easy. We can deal with this. In traditional medicine, you might go to a healer or a physician or a doctor and be really sick and have these ailments that some of our doctors today would say are incurable. Traditional physicians won't say that. They'll say, oh, this is easy to deal with. Because first of all, they have to make you at ease. They can't tell you that, you'll be dead in 2 weeks, right? That's what they do. I had a cousin who went to the doctor and, he told her she had pancreatic cancer. And he told her she just had a short time to live. She died in 9 months. She believed the doctor. And she lost hope. And she collapsed under that. So we want to say, we're going to heal you. We're going to take care of this. And I've seen healers, and I've seen great sheikhs who have solved problems that people are dying. And they do something and give them something, and that person is still with us and in remission and well. And I've seen people who've had psychological problems that were so frightening that they scared me. And I had no idea what we could do for this person. And again, the sheikh, in talking to that person and his family, said, this is easy to take care of. Okay? So you want to make the mountain here, and it was a mountain. It's a real problem, but make it into a molehill. Then that makes it easy for them to deal with it. So that's the first thing I'd like to say, that these problems are big, but we want to regard them as little. And we want to then, of course, do things the best that we can. And the main thing is, to understand this child has a perfect fitrah. It is there, and we want to keep them in touch with it. And if they're getting out of touch with it, we want to put them back in touch with it. If we were to talk about this at length and you were to give your opinions, you could give lots of good answers. The only thing I'm going to say, so that we can take other questions, is that hug your child, kiss your child, look at your child with eyes of love and mercy. I met a man who's a wonderful man, incredible man. His father is a Muslim. His mother is a German non-Muslim. His mother is an angel. She is an angel. She's taken care of him all of her life. She's taken care of the sick and the dying all of her life. His father, you can't say that about his father. And his father never kissed him once, never hugged him once, divorced his mother when he was probably 11 years old, would see him all the time, never treat him with any kind of love. Okay, so these are the kind of people that we are not, right? We don't want to be like that. And we get our humanity and we affirm our fitrah by this direct contact with each other. This is why we have to, look at our children, hug our children. And this is why also, these video games and phones and things like that, they're a blessing. They have in them much good. But, don't let them take everything over. And sometimes they have to put it away. Get them in touch with animals. In traditional Islamic societies, we believe that if you don't live with animals, you can't be human. And our traditional Islamic cities were garden cities. They had in them always sheep and cats and dogs and goats and horses, and we can't do that so easily today. We live in the automobile age, but let's get some animals around us as well and teach them how to be good to animals, and maybe to raise a sheep or a goat or something like that. Or take them out to see a goat or to pet baby goats and sheep. Horses are so beautiful. There's a type of therapy for couples who are having trouble, where you go and I think you have to hold the horse's forelock or something, and you have to talk about your wife. Well, every time you lie, the horse is going to go, it's going to put its head back, right? But it knows you're lying, and so the doctor says, oh, you want to say that again? And she does the same thing. The horse, isn't that amazing? So these are things we can do just to stay in touch with the fitrah. Nature. You know, you have beautiful nature in this country, don't you? You do. You've got beautiful deserts. You've got the Nile River. You've got so many other things. You've got beautiful places to go. So get out in nature also. And bond with nature. Let's take another question. You put them in order? Thank you, CD. Thank you, thank you. Somebody raise their hand? Yes. Wa alaikum assalam.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
So, in our community, I think we have a problem with how we define fitra. It's sometimes used in our Muslim community, at least here in Egypt. I don't know about many other communities, but it's used as accusing, as an accusation. Someone has a distorted fitra. I think a woman who wants to work, who is not circumcised, it gets that far, who puts a little makeup. Someone who has mental illness, they accuse him of having a distorted fitra. So how do we know which falls under fitra from these accusations and which doesn't? So because it constitutes a major problem.
Okay, thank you very much. It would seem to me from what you said, and I know that your audience knows exactly what you're saying. I don't know well because I'm not Egyptian. That these are accusations that really don't pertain to what fitra is or isn't, but they're just saying to the person that you do this, so therefore you've betrayed your fitra. And we will see that the fitra has in it great wealth and great treasure, and we might say to the person who's saying things like that they have betrayed their fitras, because that's not the way we talk to people. That's not the way we approach these problems. So this is a question from the live stream. Was the fitrah of our messengers, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the strongest? Were all the prophets, alayhimu salam, made of a superior fitrah? When Allah chooses His awliya, does their fitrah become stronger? So that's a pretty good question, isn't it? The Prophet ﷺ has the most perfect fitrah that ever was created. And the questioner used the word strong, and I think there's nothing wrong with using that. Perfect might be a little bit better, but his fitrah was strong in its attachment to its nature. And this is true of all the messengers and all the prophets. So they have the perfect fitras, and they are in touch with their fitras from the very beginning. What's very important here is that their fitras are nevertheless the same as ours. Our fitras are not as perfect, and they are not as strong. And we do not access them as easily. But our fitras are also of the same order completely. And that's why they become for us perfect models for us to model our fitras against. In the case of the awliya, the saints of God, the pious men and women, upright men and women, that as they advance, they are always getting their fitras more balanced. They're always getting in greater access to their fitrah. And this is also part of the process of the purification of the soul. Now tell me, is that fitrah? Is that fitrah? Tell me. No, don't tell me. Okay. Should we tell that young man probably that you're violating your fitrah? But in the case of the awliya, and of all of us, when we purify ourselves, we are getting into our fitrah. And when you purify yourself, the first thing you do is you understand that these eyes you have and ears you have to hear with are windows that open up to the world out there. So you've got to protect them from looking at things they shouldn't look at. You've got to protect them from hearing things they shouldn't hear. You've got to protect them from doing things they shouldn't do. And you've got to make them look at things that are good for them, and listen to things that are good for them, and do things that are good for them. Okay? And then you get to the heart. You see, you get these limbs right, or these organs right, and you discipline them, and then you get to the heart and you purify it, getting out of it everything that shouldn't be there. And all of this leads to greater access to the fitrah, balancing our natures in every way. How to redirect ourselves towards al-fitrah when you feel ashamed and not loved. That's the feeling that's controlling my mind. I want to forget about the dunya, and I want to focus on the love of Allah. How do we redirect ourselves towards the fitrah when you feel ashamed and not loved? Very good question. Very good, and very good sentiment also. And whoever this is, God bless them and God give them that access. What comes to my mind is that some people are not just loved, not just not loved, like this wonderful young man. He is incredible, this young man. His father really wasn't good to him at all. Not really bad to him either, but just not loving at all. His mother was. But you have people who are actually hurt by the ones that should love them. And you have people who are abused by the ones who should love them. And in a very bad time, then you find that things are done that you wouldn't believe are possible. So you have boys and you have girls who have not just been denied love, but they've actually been abused and they've been hurt very bad. So how do they get back to their fitrah? And here, the task is very difficult. God intervenes, God helps. I know of people, for example, who have had horrible things happen to them. And in one case, the girl was 6 months old, and the person who did it was her grandfather. I mean, can you believe that? It's hard to believe, isn't it? But you hear the story so many times, you know that even this happens. And, so she stayed intact. She actually got sick. She grew up sort of weak. She did get married. She had certain problems in her marriage, as you might expect. She did have children. And I think she's wonderful. Really, I do. But one of the things that God gave her, almost from an early age, was dreams. And these dreams were dreams of prophets, and dreams of saints, and dreams of the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these were things that sort of brought her into a special world where she could be cultivated. I know of another girl, in my country, who was so horribly abused. She was a non-Muslim, and she was from the Appalachian Mountains, and her stepfather was the abuser. She lost her father, and she began at the age of probably 10 to hear voices. And she will say, I heard the voices of God, and I don't have anything to say about that. And by the time she was 12, she said, the voice said, you've got to leave. I mean, her stepfather had taken her cat, her pet cat, and strung it up to a tree and poured gasoline and tar on it and burned it before her face. What a shaitan, right? What kind of people are these? And what was done to him, because he had a fitrah that wasn't like that, you see. And so she left. This is in Appalachians. And fortunately she found a black man who married her and who was really good to her and enabled her to begin to become a human being. So God also intervenes, and we as communities have to intervene. We have to use therapies, we have to use other things, we have to have good company, we have to be good company to ourselves. And husnul dhanni min husnul ibadah, having a good opinion of people and of things is good worship. And so many times people do things that we respond to very negatively. And yet, usually we are the ones who are mistaken because of the fact that we don't really know that person, do we? And we think that they're doing something that actually that's not what they were motivated to do in the first place. So, we need to be wise. We need to be forgiving. We need to be merciful. We need to learn how to control our anger. We need to speak to people with kind words. I remember once I took my wife and a friend of my wife and her husband into the house of a whole bunch of good Muslims, scholars, and the women went upstairs to be with the scholars' wives. And sometimes the scholars' wives were not very merciful. And one of these women, the one who went with my wife, she'd been married for 14 years and never had a child. So, what does that mean to you, that she's been married for 14 years and never had a child? Well, you probably put that together, 1 + 1 is 2, right? She couldn't have children, right? And one of these women comes up to her and tells her how bad of a Muslim she is not to have children. It's like, would you please think? Would you please have emotional intelligence? So, and this is very important, A lot of us, because of the way that we go about living with each other, we just don't have emotional intelligence. And may God give us that, including especially myself. So then you get everything in order and the love comes back. Are some people by fitra evil? No, they're not. And we'll talk about that later, because وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. God made the soul perfect, and then He inspired it. He gave it ilham to know its corruption and its reverence. So all of us, this is part of the gift of fitrah, that you know everything about evil that can be known. It's also there in your fitrah. It's there so that you don't do it. And you're also known that it's not good and it's not beautiful. Okay? It's not there as an arsenal that you can draw on to hurt people. But you can't live in a world of demonic beings who are going to test you if you don't know anything about evil. You've got to have the whole book. Okay? But that's not so that we be evil, it's so that we be good. And so that we're not naive fools either. But some people open up that book out of jealousy and rivalry and deviation in order to hurt other people. Right? Jealousy is rife. One of the signs of the end of time is that there is a lot of sorcery and black magic. We're told that there'll be a lot of sihr and sahara. And in some Muslim countries it's like, in Jeddah, when they began to dig out the port, the harbor, called the Islamic port of Jeddah. They had to dig that out because there was no port there before. And they discovered, in digging that out, thousands upon thousands of bottles, many of which had been there for hundreds of years, that were filled with enchantments of black magic against people. So who does that? This is a type of hatred and envy and jealousy that people turn to, and it's a sign also of the decline of religion. Whenever religion begins to decline, people begin to turn to these things. Sometimes some religions like that of Babylon and of Egypt, ancient Egypt also, sihr becomes everything. Sihr was a big thing in Egyptian religion, you probably know that. And the ren, you know, the name, the ism. You have to know the name of the thing. And if you know the name of the thing, you've got power over it. That's, you know, so God protect us. But people are not naturally that way. They're not naturally that way. Although they do become that way. And they can become the lowest of the low. How is time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Thank you, my dear brother. Sorry? Any more questions from the floor? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. So I understand that fitra is something spiritual, something that's intangible. And while listening to you, I was struggling because we're trying to put it in a scientific way and something that we can explain, something that's universally applicable on everyone. And I've been struggling to get the link between both how we can define something we cannot see, something that we only feel, into something that we can put into science words. So can you maybe elaborate on this?
Did you hear the question?
No.
I heard it really well, but I don't think her microphone was working.
I can use my voice.
You could probably do that. I could use my microphone.
You can do it for
So
me.
what our sister is asking is that how, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that you tell me these things, how can I understand that scientifically? Maybe what you mean, and you correct me, how can I prove that scientifically? Okay, so now one of the things that we have to know is that science can only describe and measure, and it can only show us the connections between things, and that science can only work in a very limited domain of things that we can see, touch, taste, hear, and smell. So therefore, science cannot tell us everything, and science cannot discover everything. Science is fundamentally operational. This is very important. So science is really good when it comes to making something like my dear Maimuna, my computer, or this table. These are operations. Okay? Science is very good when it's instrumental. But to use science to discover the nature of reality, well, that can only be done if you add to science metaphysics. In other words, and again, this is what most of our scientists today are taught is completely haram. For example, you've all heard of the theory of Big Bang. Now, Big Bang is nothing but a theory. And it may be disproven at any time because it has in it certain contradictions. But Big Bang says that all this universe comes out of a particular point, right? And boom! And in no time at all, you've got this expansion from it. Now, many scientists said, when this theory was put forward, and continue to say, that this is creation from nothing. Creation from nothing. And Jews, Christians, and Muslims all believe in creation from nothing. And one of these great physicists, whose name is Hoyle, he said, there shall be, I wish I had an anvil, boom, 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 judge. There shall be no metaphysical intrusions into physics. Okay, well then don't say Big Bang. That's a metaphysical intrusion. And don't tell me these other things either. That's just like dumb metaphysics. Why can't we have some smart metaphysics? You see, so this is one of the things, is that our sciences today are very beneficial. We don't deny that. And it would be ungrateful and incorrect to do that. But they all have a certain problem. which is reductionism. Reductionism. It means we're going to talk about psychology, right? And you have psychologists out here, I'm sure. And I'm not saying that what you do is wrong or bad. But how could I really talk about the psyche, which is the nafs, if I don't talk about other things like the ruh, or the heart, or the aql, or food, or environment, or, oh my God, don't say this in class, Satan, or angels. Okay, what does Satan have to, what are scientists going to say about Satan? Because they can't see him, they can't hear him, even though, you know, he might give them proof in other ways. Okay, but see, so this is a problem here, is that modern science gives us so much good. Scientism, however, is an ideology about that science which says that it can give you things that no real scientist would ever claim to do. So, therefore, we rely on the highest form of knowledge of all, which is revelation. This is revealed knowledge. This is religious knowledge. And we get it from the revelation given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran and the hadith. Where do we get the knowledge of heaven and hell? Where do we get the knowledge of the punishment of the grave or the reward of the grave? So we are not reductionists. We believe in what our eyes can see and our ears can hear and our tongues can taste and we can smell or we can touch, but we also believe in the unseen, al-ghayb, right? And we also believe in intellect, al-aql. And that's not just intelligence. Intellect is the belief in first principles. First principles, like, you know, the part is smaller than the whole. Like the fact that anything that moves or changes must have a beginning. That is first principles. You know, another first principle is in Latin, you know, numerus stat ex parte materiae, means that number stands outside of matter. This is Thomas Aquinas, whom I happen to love. You see, that is a principle that number stands outside of matter. You see that short sentence? That's the way intellect speaks. But what does that mean? It means that numbers are not quantifiers, although they can be used for quantification. How many of you are here tonight? That's a quantity. I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm quantifying. I can do that. It's not haram. It's not bad. But it means that numbers have a reality that is above quantification. And that is quality. Okay, so we believe in that world of intellect also. And we enrich it through, we enrich it through revelation. And we enrich it through science. So these are going to be our 3 tributaries of knowledge. Revelation, it's got to be authentic. You have to understand it correctly. Then intellect. And then we have after that science and experience. اللهم وفقنا لما تحبه وترضاه وجعلنا من عبيدك السعداء وأمتنا على كلمة الهدى علمنا ما ينفعنا ووفقنا للعمل بما علمتنا به واجعل ما نحن فيه خالصا مخلصا لوجهك الكريم يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل تجمعنا هذا تجمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا بعده تفرقا معصوما لا شقيا منا ولا محروما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. The question of our sister was an excellent question, and she's actually, in my opinion, raising another issue. And this is the fact that our minds have been taught all sorts of paradigms and cognitive frames and beliefs from the time that we were little. And we've never been taught to critique that And we've never been taught to begin at the beginning. And this is why whenever we teach these types of topics in hopefully a certain type of depth and a certain type of authenticity and detail, then a lot of people have a big problem articulating it in their minds because of the fact that they learned something else. See, and so this is unfortunately one of the problems that we face. If you were taught, as most Americans were, that no one ever crossed the oceans to come to America before Christopher Columbus did that in 1492, and then you found evidence that in fact Africans had done that at least 200 years before him, you would reject it out of hand. You can't, because until you can question that paradigm, that Columbus is the first one to do it, then you can't accept something else. So this is why also in learning and relearning our religion, we've got to look at paradigms and cognitive frames and presumptions. And we've got to see, like, do I really want to keep that or not? Or do I want to expand it? Or do I want to change the furniture a little bit? And maybe it would be good to open up the windows. So God bless us in these wonderful evenings. It is such a joy to be back here in this wonderful country. When I came into Egypt, this happens every time. Everyone that I had contact with, getting off the airplane, on the airplane, a lot of Egyptians, everybody around me was an Egyptian, I was on Egypt Air, going through customs, going through the passport control, they all smiled, and they all welcomed me, and they all had nice things to say. And I mean, all countries have a lot of good, but Egyptians do tend to be really friendly people, really open people, and that is an incredible quality. And it makes it so wonderful to come back here. And may God keep you that way. Keep you people that are welcoming to foreigners, who love foreigners and who love each other. Ameen.